So one of my fondest angles was obviously Canada versus USA. I recently interviewed the Patriot of all people, and it seemed like at the same time that angle was so far ahead of its time. But could it work today with the sensitive political and social nature that exists? How would that work today?
The Canada U.S. thing.
Yeah, because I mean, quite frankly, a lot of the stuff you were saying, if you put it down right now, it would be even more appropriate than 1997.
It was the whole thing was initially, I don't know. I remember in the beginning, like they would have me say stuff, and I remember it's like I'm kind of walking this line between being a baby face and a heel. And I remember a lot of times saying, I got to say something smarter than that. Like I can't just go out there and say stupid stuff. I'm kind of still a baby face, and it has to be done in a very intelligent way. So I think, there was an effort to keep it pretty smart in the beginning. And that was kind of where it kind of petered out, was when they kind of cut the power on me. I remember it's like Vince mysteriously kind of ran out of ideas about the end of August, and they didn't really push the the U.S. Canada promos for me. I remember Vince was the one that came up with the storyline about sticking the anima, giving Pittsburgh an anima. Um, I remember as that I was like, geez, that's a bit strong, like because I always liked Pittsburgh as a
Yeah.
city, and it's like, yeah, you got to say that, and it always was one of the things that I'm not sure I've ever been forgiven in Pittsburgh for saying that, but Vince was hands on, giving me sort of telling me how to do the whole U.S. Canada thing. And one of the things that happened after SummerSlam, after I worked with, I think it was the
Undertaker.
Patriot and,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Undertaker, and that time period, they just cut the power. And if you sort of watch my promos for the next 2 months, I'm kind of walking out there, and it's the same thing as I had in WCW, where I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't have anything to say other than I'm saying what I said the week before. It's just trying to ranting about Canadians being better than Americans, and lost a lot of its power because, ultimately, Vince McMahon, he's the idea guy, and he was a big part of the success of that U.S. Canada thing working, because he was giving me a lot of ideas, and I think it was part of my intentional grounding, was okay, now we'll cut the power on him, like let him just go out there and he doesn't know what to say. And it's too bad. I've always thought that was one of the smarter storylines. I always loved the line I had about they don't shoot each other and kill each other on every street corner and all that stuff, but it turned out to be pretty fitting stuff for the times, and probably would be just as I don't know. Even in those days, when I think of the United States today and how much problems with you know, the political tensions that they have there right now. If I go back to remember those days, I can remember, you know, like in some of those places like Montgomery, Alabama, and places like that, getting in my car to drive off after the show, and I would have hillbilly guys in trucks follow me for miles, shaking their fists at me and trying to run me off the road. And it was dangerous stuff. It was like, these guys are really mad that I'm bashing America, and they were like redneck nut jobs. And I had a lot of wackos that as soon as I started putting down America, it was like serious stuff to them. And I'm glad that that nothing bad ever happened from it. I can remember telling Vince that it was becoming a problem for me to leave the buildings at night at
I
the end of the
wondered.
show, because I was all by myself at the end of the night, and I got to drive to the next town, and there's fans that would follow me for 50, 60 miles, shaking their fists at me and trying to cut me off. And, it was part of a strange job sometimes, where it's like they don't understand the stuff that you got to go through on a 24-hour basis.
Yeah, I watched some of that stuff back, and I was like, man, you could have dropped any of these promos in 2020. they would fit right in. Like it would make a lot of sense. My parent company is based out of Canada. I miss Canada a lot. Like I go there and I'm like, wow, it's so much more peaceful here, and people are nicer to each other on the streets. Like I thought it was not ever going to Canada. I was like, oh, it's for storyline. No, it's real. A lot of it's rooted in realism.
Well, Canadians have always been sort of the more gentler, laid back version of Americans anyway. Like we're as much, we're really kind of the bastard child of Britain and the America, because we're kind of like Americans, but we're British
Yeah.
Americans. It's kind of, it's very, it's a unique place, and there's a temperament that Canadians always have a good temperament. And, I think we're a better place because, Canada, for the most part, we actually don't mind wearing masks and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal,